Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're taking a look at something that's really kind of the foundation of so much of our lives these days, AP Computer Science Principles. You can kind of think of this episode as like a cheat sheet for getting the basic concepts of how technology works and why it even matters for you in your day-to-day life.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to be focusing on the official course description today, which is like just striking in terms of how wide-ranging it is.
Yeah.
Really gets at like the foundational stuff of how everything works.
Yeah, definitely. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the most, I guess, like the most important and the most fascinating elements for you folks listening, whether you're a techie or not. And actually, this course that we're talking about, it's designed to be pretty broad. So it really is relevant to, well, like anyone. So first thing that kind of grabs you is like all the different topics that they cover. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely more than just like coding. You know, they get into some coding stuff like block-based programming and Python, which is pretty accessible, especially for getting started. But then it goes into data and like how it gets used and how it gets collected. And when you think about that, it's like everything from your fitness tracker to when you're like buying stuff online, it all comes back to data.
Right. And then it goes even further than that. Like they actually talk about how the internet itself works, like how information goes from your phone to a server that could be like across the world. And then super importantly, cybersecurity. Like how do you keep your information safe online? When you think about all those data breaches you hear about all the time, like it's actually super important that people understand that.
Yeah. And what I think is really neat here is they also talk about like the big picture too, like how computing affects society. Like how does technology affect how we talk to each other, how we work, and even democracy? It really makes you think critically about the stuff we're using every single day.
It's interesting. It seems like this isn't just about learning facts. It's about building skills.
Yeah, for sure. Like one of the core goals of the course is building those logical thinking skills, you know, being able to break a problem down into smaller steps, which is useful no matter what you do. And there's a real emphasis on collaboration too, because so much of the tech world is about teamwork. Like you need to work with others to get anything done.
Yeah, and it's that real world connection, right? Like you learn about logic in a coding exercise, but then you realize it's the same kind of logic you'd use to plan, like any big project.
Exactly. And to really hammer home these concepts, they encourage students to like get hands-on. You know, they have students make simple apps and games or even simulations. You actually build something yourself, which makes it way more concrete.
Another thing that stuck out to me was like how accessible it seems to be. Like the only thing you need before taking the class is Algebra 1. And they explicitly say you don't need any experience with coding beforehand. I feel like that makes it so much more open to so many more people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because it basically says this is just like an entry-level exploration for anyone who's interested in this stuff, you know, no matter what their background is.
Yeah.
It's about like making technology less mysterious.
So thinking about all that we've discussed, like from the apps we use to how email works to how to keep your information safe online, what part of this strikes you as like the most immediately important for like your own life?
You know, for me, it's probably the tension between the huge amounts of data that are being created all the time and how we keep that data safe. It's like, how do we use data to make things better while also making sure our information is protected? It's like a constant balance.
I think that's a good point. So like the key takeaway here is that AP Computer Science Principles really gives you a solid and approachable way to understand like the most fundamental things about technology and how it shapes our world.
Yeah, it's less about teaching everyone to be a programmer and more about giving people the tools they need to understand the modern world, you know?
Yeah.
Like a shortcut to understanding the digital age.
And that's a great point to end on. So thinking about all this, consider how these principles that we've been talking about, like the code that runs apps, the data that powers them, the networks that connect them, all that stuff, how they might be shaping your life in ways that you haven't really thought about. What new questions does this bring up for you about the technology that you use every day? I think that's a great question for all of us to consider. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.